Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the live Q&A with me, Professor Michael Scott. I'm here at the University of Warwick, where we've had the first week or so of term, and it's been a busy week meeting all the new students coming in, all my new personal tutees, as well as starting off lectures. This year I'm teaching one of the first year courses for Introduction to Greek and Roman History, and we've just come out of, in fact, a 2-hour session where we were debating what the nature of history is and what its purpose is and who it's for and who creates it for a good 2 hours. Hello, Alexis, how are you doing? Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, everyone, for your great questions that you've been sending in over the last 2 weeks that I'm now going to have the opportunity to share with you and to discuss your thoughts on as well as mine. It really is a great chance, and may I say, absolutely fantastic questions as always coming in. Congratulations. Hi Linda, hi Laura, how are you doing? Absolutely, we're all good. Good to see term back and good to see the university in full flow. So, of course, the most important thing to say first off is this is a prize week. So every month we look back at the questions that we've answered over the past month and we pick out one of the questions that we think really kind of ace the game, and a prize is sent to that person. So I've been looking back over the prior questions we've answered through September, and I think one stands out for me. Hello Minali, hello Denise, how are you doing? Thank you so much indeed for tuning in, everyone. And that was the question, but I think it was almost 2-3 weeks ago, by Jacqueline Jordan Skinner, who asked, "They say that those who don't learn their history are doomed to repeat it. Is there a lesson that you have learned that has stopped you doing something or changed the way you've done something?" And so we were discussing that, but equally, of course, it was great to hear your thoughts as well as to what you feel history has done for you. And I was just coming out of the session with our first years as well, thinking about some of those things and getting them to talk a little bit about kind of what their expectations were of what history could do for them. Please, thank you so much for tuning in, just coming out of your meeting. Hello, how are you doing? So congratulations to Jacqueline, that's absolutely fantastic. The prize is yours. It's a signed book. Please let us know by email or through the Facebook page where you would like that book being sent, and also any dedication that you would like written in it as well. And thank you so much to you all as ever for your fantastic questions and for participating. So that is our prize this week, and we go on to some of the questions that we've had from you. So pick up on a couple that came in live over the last Q&A that I didn't get a chance to respond to, which was one from Linda Montague going, "Any more ancient classical quizzes coming up on the Facebook page? You're really enjoying them." I'm so glad, Linda, that you are. That's absolutely fantastic news, and I hope many of you out there are as well. It's great to see such fantastic engagement with the page, and obviously we had exciting times a week or so ago when we headed over the 7,000 followers and kind of into good times, and we're ploughing on now towards the 8,000. So will there be more classical quizzes? Yes, there will. And if there are particular civilizations and cultures that you would like the quiz to be about, then let us know through the Facebook page, and we can put something together. Hi Julia, thank you so much for tuning in. You're asking, as a wheelchair user, you're worried that you might not be able to visit the locations very easily if you embark on a journey to, hang on a second, let me see if I can see some more of the question, to might be able to embark on a classics degree. What do you think? Well, one of my PhD students at the moment is also a wheelchair user, and she's gone through her undergrad here with us at Warwick Masters and is now doing a PhD. So it is absolutely impossible. You shouldn't think about this at all in terms of an impediment to your study of the subject, certainly not within the university environment. In terms of your ability to visit locations, it very much depends on where you're hoping to go. If we're going to Greece and you want to go to some of the main locations, then those are perfectly accessible. So you can get up to the Acropolis, for instance. There's a lift that goes up the side of the Acropolis for wheelchair users, and a number of other sites around central Athens are absolutely accessible to you. If you want to go to some of the more rural sites, which are out the way, kind of across a slightly more rugged and uneven landscape, well, you can certainly get close to them in a car, but it might not then be possible for you to do the full tour of the locations themselves. It very much varies on a site-to-site basis. But I really wouldn't let you that put you off, particularly also because of now the advances of things like virtual reality and your ability to engage with a number of the sites for the ancient world through virtual reality as well, to give you a good sense and experience of them, like we do virtual reality tours of ancient Athens with our school trips, as well as people who come to here on campus who are absolutely amazed by the experience they get. So I would say don't let it hold you back in the slightest. Get started, and if you would like to come and do a classics degree with us at Warwick, then do apply. We'd love to see you. Hello Lorraine, hello Ken, thank you so much indeed. Thank you for the marble. Yes, kind of a good job. There we go, thank you very much indeed. So Linda, yes, there will be more classical quizzes. Let us know what topics you would like those classical quizzes to be about. And then we had another question that came in, this one not over the live Q&A, but this one came in during the week from Julie Maskel, asking, in ancient history, did women ever fight? So this is a great question. Thank you, Julie, indeed. And kind of, yes, absolutely they did. Now, we don't possibly imagine that happening first off. Kind of the ancient world often gets put down as a sort of male world, and of course most of the soldiers fighting in the ranks of battle in the many different battles that there were would have been men. But there are famous exceptions to this rule. So in Greek mythology, of course, kind of one of the most powerful groups that even the great kind of Hercules sees as a kind of valiant opposition, as do most, in fact, Greek communities, are the Amazons, the female warriors of the ancient world that terrorize, kind of going around the ancient world and terrorize the different groups in Greek mythology as being the warriors par excellence of the ancient world. So we've definitely got the Amazons. And then if you think actually in the kind of real life, if you like, histories of battles that we know about, both in the Greek and indeed in the Persian armies, do you find women sometimes stepping forward to take a front row role in the battle. So famously at the Battle of Salamis, there was Queen Artemisia, who was one of the kind of generals or commanders under the Persian king, who had invaded down into Greece with their fleets, and the great Battle of Salamis, that there was the great kind of showdown, if you like, between mainly Athenian naval forces and the Persian fleet at the Battle of Salamis. Queen Artemisia was said to be one of the most courageous of the Persian kings. Commanders, leading her triremes and her ships into attack. So kind of definitely we had Artemisia at the Battle of Salamis, and indeed she's represented as well in the sources as being one of the more clever commanders of the Persian king, one of the people who actually advised the Persian king not really to get drawn into the trap that was the Battle of Salamis, where the Athenians were all sort of laying in wait inside this narrow strait where the greater Persian numbers didn't really count for much. So the Queen Artemisia is represented as this really quite canny and strategic operator who can see the problems that many of her male colleagues can't see. Then we could think, if you move over into the Roman world, kind of great enemies of Rome were often set up were women. Boudica, obviously, kind of over here in good old Roman Britain, as the woman who leads the fight back, if you like, the rebellion against Rome from within Roman Britain, and of course, kind of as immortalised in the recent Horrible Histories movie, which I hope that you took the time to see over the summer. Boudica, all singing, all dancing, Boudica kind of led the rebellion until kind of that she herself lost her life along with so many others. And then at the other side of the Roman Empire, on the eastern side of the Roman Empire, several centuries later, you had another queen. You had Queen Zenobia. Zenobia of Palmyra. Now, obviously, Palmyra has been in the news a lot, sadly, because of the destruction that's been visited on it by kind of Daesh and other sort of hardline forces in the area. But Palmyra was, of course, once upon a time an incredibly cosmopolitan and successful and wealthy trading post that was sort of on the margins of the Eastern Roman Empire, and it traded with communities across the boundaries of the Roman Empire, so into the Persian and the Sassanid empires, but equally its traders connected into the caravan networks of the desert that then went south down towards the sea, and from there they got on their boats and were trading stuff all the way through to the ports of India, and thus through the ports of India through into Central Asia and indeed to China. So several examples of Chinese silk have been found in the burials of Palmyra. And Palmyra was sort of kind of always thought of as a sort of prize that the Romans would like to have a more strong military hold over, but most of the time they sort of left it to sort of run itself to a certain extent, and kept a sort of weather eye, but not a kind of over heavy one on Palmyra. But Palmyra, as a result, kind of in the 3rd century AD, got a little bit big for its boots under Queen Zenobia, its ruler, who was encouraged to think that she could be a rival to the Roman Empire, a threat to the Roman Empire itself, and ended up leading a rebellion against the Roman Empire. Queen Zenobia, Palmyra leading that rebellion, which was again eventually crushed, with the result that the Romans put paid to Palmyra and actually destroyed quite a lot of it themselves. So destruction at Palmyra is nothing new in its history. Tan, thank you so much for tuning in. You are trying to listen while doing my carer's work. Okay, I'm very glad that you're able to multitask. That's very impressive, and thank you so much indeed for tuning in and taking the time. So, great question from Julie Maskel. Ancient history, did women ever fight? And in the Roman world, is there some evidence also for female gladiators as well? Kind of not quite as much as you see when you're sort of outside the Colosseum and there's those people dressed up in gladiator outfits, and there's always the women there hanging around amongst the men, but certainly some evidence for them existing. So thank you, Julie, very much indeed for that question. Let's take a quick break to have a look at some of the archaeological news, things that have been discovered and found over the last, that have come up and been reported over the last couple of weeks. And it really has been a bumper season. We're still sort of coming out of the summer season of excavation when and hearing about the new finds that have come out from the summer season of digging. So it really is kind of absolutely amazing range of finds. So we've just had from this one was thanks to J. Matthew Reaver for sharing this one, but down in the old Cornwall Live report, kind of from Cornwall Live, you can actually, this is the name of an online Cornwall Live kind of news report. Scientists have found that tin that's been found in Israel from 3,000 years ago actually originated in Cornwall. So there we go, kind of tin ingots from more than 3,000 years ago found in Israel are actually from Cornwall. They were found in archaeological sites in Turkey and Greece, and the discovery is proof that complex and far-reaching trade routes must have existed between Europe and the Eastern Mediterranean as far back as the Bronze Age. Isn't that absolutely fantastic? That we're hearing about these trading networks that go back much, much further than we've normally given credit for, and it means that goods are travelling vast distances. And thus, as a result, the thing I always find really interesting about this is kind of what must have been people's conceptions of the places where these goods came from. Were they aware, kind of when they were using this tin and these tin ingots, that this was tin that had come from such a far away place? Could they have any conception that it was an island kind of outside of the Mediterranean? What kind of impression of the people who lived there did they form as a result? Kind of, are you tuning in from Melbourne? You should be asleep. It's 1:15 a.m. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so sorry that you're not asleep, but I'm so glad that you're able to join us. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in. And Corinne says they are going to reopen the tin mines in Cornwall. So there we go. Kind of talk about 3,000 years of history and continuation of traditions. Absolutely fantastic. They should do a sort of joint. They should send one of the first tin ingots that comes out of the reopened tin mines in Cornwall. Should be sent off to the west coast of Asia. There we go. Sarah is only, it's 4:10 here and you want to be asleep as well. Well, I hope that's not because of what I'm saying and how I'm talking to you and how I'm entertaining and listening to you. Hopefully it's more as a result of the fact that you've had a very busy day so far, Sarah. That's how I'm going to understand that. Anyway, please, you want to be asleep as well? Well, all right, fine. We can all take 40 winks and I'll shut up for a little bit. No, I will keep going just for those who are managing to keep their eyes open. Hi from Ireland, Jimmy, thank you so much. Willow, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you just enjoyed the lecture for Introduction to Greek and Roman History as well. The Roman fort has been discovered. A Roman fort, this is from The Guardian, so not the Cornwall Live, not a newspaper of such distinction as the Cornwall Live, but The Guardian, not too shabby. The Roman fort was discovered under Exeter bus station recently as well. Hello Judith, how are you doing? Oh no, Sarah, you had a bad night. I'm so sorry. Hi from London, Maria. Thank you so much for tuning in. Exeter bus station. Under Exeter bus station, they've discovered a Roman fort. It first began as a Roman ditch, but then further excavations revealed 2 more ditches running parallel to one another, and they belonged to a previously unknown military site, which was either a fort occupied by an army unit or a defended compound. Coin and pottery made in the area for the troops, as well as fine red Samian tableware imported from France, were also discovered. Again, doesn't that just set your kind of mind and imagination going about kind of what were those people doing there in Exeter, kind of using this beautiful tableware that had come in from France, probably sitting in the rain, kind of somewhere down in Exeter. Did they know that they weren't that far from the tin mines of Cornwall as well? Kind of what were they imagining their lives were going to be like when they were heading over to be stationed in Britain, perhaps? Kind of the mind absolutely boggles. And then from we also found a whole bunch of Roman amphorae that were being used to store olive oil and wine in a 1,700-year-old shipwreck off the coast of Majorca. So, kind of silly, they were sending the wine, the olive oil and the wine over there because Majorca was a party island, kind of to a certain extent as it is today, and people were obviously living it up well, but this ship at least, and its cargo got sunk off the coast. But this is absolutely amazing that the footage that's coming out of this shipwreck, the clarity with which you're able to see the amphorae that have been kind of painstakingly recovered, and the wreck dates to about 1700 years ago, found back in just this July, in July 2019, and we know kind of what we think was in those jars because of some of the inscriptions on them. So they're actually labelling what's in the jugs, in the amphorae, olive oil, wine, and also of course that fish sauce, the garum, which frankly I think pretty much everyone who tastes it today would think it's absolutely disgusting, but the Romans couldn't get enough of it. So there we go. And I also wanted to flag, of course, What's On. We do a What's On. Hello, Fiona, how are you doing? Thank you so much for tuning in. We do a What's On coming up. If you're anywhere near Didcot, then you need to get to the Greek and Roman festival in Didcot, which is happening this Saturday. Watch a Roman cookery demonstration, see Roman blacksmiths in action, meet a Roman soldier, meet some donkeys. I don't know if they're Roman donkeys, but, kind of meet some donkeys anyway. Some ancient artifacts, watch Greek pots come to life, make a mosaic, find some treasure, listen to a metal detectorist, and hear a talk about Ovid's poems and more. There you go. What more could you want? On the 5th of October, romansindidcot.com if you want to find out more about that. But there is something, of course, even better going on Saturday the 5th of October, which is a Warwick Classics Open Day. So we are here. If you're thinking and interested in studying classics with us, then do come along, get registered and come along to our Open Day this Saturday, the 5th of October. And I'll be there talking about our degrees and also giving a small mini taster lecture as well. So it'll be absolutely fantastic to see you there. And we've got another Open Day coming up on Saturday the 19th of October as well. So if you can't make the 5th, you've got a chance to come and see us on the 19th as well. And then on the 20th of October, to flag another event that's happening that I'll also be talking at, we've got a night at the museum, the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, and we're going to be talking about ancient myths now and in the future. So this is all part of the Oxford Lieder Festival, and we'll be exploring life, death, and the mysterious areas between and beyond. It's going to be a combination of music and a talk by me. So do try and come along to that if you can make it to the Ashmolean. Corinne, just undergrad. So yes, it's an undergraduate open day. Thinking about joining undergraduate degrees. Of course, parents and interested bystanders and relations are welcome as well. So if you can find a prospective undergraduate and bring them along, then that's absolutely fabulous. If you're interested in our postgraduate degrees, so master's degrees and PhDs, then there'll be a separate postgraduate day as well. So do get in touch with me or get in touch with our Director of Graduate Studies, Caroline Petit, who will be able to tell you about the dates and times when you can come and see us. Willow, thank you. You would heartily recommend the Classics Department of Warwick. Excellent. Well done, you. And what's new as well, we do a little bit of where we sort of suggest some books and things that you might want to read There's been some great ones that have been flagged up. Kind of Adrian Mayer, we were just talking about the Amazons as one of the kind of ferocious female fighting forces of antiquity, and there's a TED-Ed animation, Did the Amazons Really Exist?, led by Adrian Mayer, who's written a fantastic book on the Amazons. So if you want to find out more about the Amazons, Adrian Mayer is absolutely the person to turn to. And this kind of is who were the real women warriors known as the Amazons. So Adrian Mayer is talking about the fact that these people don't just exist in myth, they exist in reality. So kind of there we go. We'll put the link up on the Facebook page for that. And also we have a book that I wanted to flag to you that's been reviewed recently by Sarah Bond, who many of you may be familiar with, who does absolutely fantastic kind of public engagement work for classics, based over in the US, and is ferocious in kind of making sure that the public have as much open access to classics as they possibly can. Does brilliantly, and she on her blog hyperallergenic.com has been reviewing a book by Andrew Rigsby, which is Mosaics of Knowledge Representing Information in the Roman World. And this is interesting, whereas Andrew looks at all the sort of visual aids that would have been around people within the Roman world, so lists, calendars, maps, tables, weights, measures, all these sorts of things, and how did those and the way that they're built and structured and represented and placed, how do they help did they help the ancient Romans to organise, access and understand their world? So there we go. Kind of definitely two things to have a think about and have a look-see at them. Kind of, you're going off to see our Song of Arms and a Man this Saturday in Guildford. Another great place to go. Kind of absolutely to crack on and see a Song of Arms and a Man. That's really worth going to see if you can get to it as well. Maria, you haven't got an undergraduate, but your George is auntie. Okay, teaches English at Warwick. Oh, well, come along for the day anyway. I'm sure George is there for the open days as well. Come along and join us and come and say hello. So we've had some excellent questions that we haven't had a chance to get to. Linda Montague, I'd like to know about crime in the ancient Greek era. Were the punishments vastly different from now? Did they have prisons? Did they treat poorer citizens differently from those in the higher echelons of society? Really interesting question. Crime and punishment. Well, it a little bit depends again, because Greece is such a tapestry, a patchwork of different places that all do things in slightly different ways. So we have to talk about individual city-states really. So if we focus just on Athens as an example, Athens in the 5th century absolutely does have a sense of crime and punishment. It also has a police force. And it was a police force that was actually a bunch of public slaves that were employed by the Athenian state, and they sort of did the work for the Athenian magistrates of going around and trying to police Athens and sort of keeping people in check. And interestingly, they were supposedly foreigners. They were Scythians. So they came from the east, from the Black Sea area, Scythians, and they were famously archers. So we have to imagine a band of publicly owned slaves dressed up in obviously kind of quite different clothing, kind of not naturally part of the Greek world, with bow and arrow, kind of marching around Athens, trying to keep a little bit of law and order. But at the same time, there was no such thing as a Crown Prosecution Service, so you couldn't expect the state to bring a case. If someone was stolen from you, the state wasn't going to bring the case to court. It was you who had to get up and come to court and bring the person who'd stolen from you to book. And it was your responsibility to lead the case. It was your responsibility to argue your side of the argument. There weren't any professional lawyers. There were professional speechwriters, so you could hire a speechwriter to write your law court speech for you, but you had to deliver it yourself. And then there would be juries, huge juries. Everyone would be doing jury service. It was a kind of part and parcel of being a paid-up Athenian citizen, and it was a paid service from a time period. And juries would be of different sizes depending on the particular nature of the crime. So it could be, for the really serious stuff, homicide, etc., could be up to 500 people sitting on a jury. And then you would present your case. There wasn't really kind of established law. There were precedents that you could quote, but you would put forward your case, you'd bring forward your evidence as much as you could, and then the sort of overseeing magistrate would kind of leave it to the jury to decide guilt or innocence. And then if you were found guilty, both sides would then suggest what they thought the punishment should be. So the jury would again have only two options for punishment, and then they would side with one of those. And yes, there was a prison in Athens, and it was very, very central. It was right, we think, right by the Agora, the marketplace of Athens, just on one of the roads leading off the Agora, an area that seems to have been at the very least used as a place to sort of hold people before bringing them to the law courts that were also mostly in the Agora, the marketplace. So it really was a multi-purpose space where people were coming to buy their goods, sell their goods, but also talk politics, also come to court. You'd be seeing all sorts of people moving through the Agora space. And in terms of punishments, well, yes, kind of similar. So prison time was an option. Equally, slightly more severe things than we do today. Kind of certainly death was also for the really serious stuff was on the agenda. As we know, famously, Socrates was put to death for the crime, having been found guilty of 3 different crimes, but of in particular for subverting the young. So there were kind of pretty serious punishments for the different crimes that could be committed, and of course things like treason were taken very, very seriously, homicide, theft, and you get a series of law court speeches that have survived, mainly from the sort of 4th century BCE, where we get to hear a sense of the sorts of things that people were taken to court for. Very often, though, in all of these law court speeches, there is a sort of underlying political narrative here about why people have decided to bring this case to court, why they've tried to get this person particularly banged to rights, and that might be to do with their wider political sympathies and associations. So very famously, there's a series of speeches by a law court speech writer called Lysias, who wrote a number of speeches for others, but equally kind of gave some himself, where kind of all those speeches are taking place in the aftermath of when 30 tyrants took over the city of Athens very, very briefly for less than a year. And it really divided the city into those who had been supporters of those 30 tyrants and those who hadn't. And in the period afterwards, while officially it had all been forgotten and everyone had gone back to being in a democracy, one of the ways in which you could sort of revisit revenge on those people who had been of the other political camp was to bring a law court case against them for something else entirely, and try to get them punished that way. So kind of definitely there was kind of lots of things going on vis-a-vis crime in the ancient world, and particularly kind of as that example in ancient Athens. Where would the court be held? So there were several different courts going kind of in multiple, because of the number of the very active business of the Athenian law courts. We have to imagine the law courts in operation in Athens maybe 250 days a year, something like that. Significant numbers of people kind of put on the jury lists who were having to turn up on a regular basis to see whether they would be needed for a court case that day, and kind of we have to imagine a very, very busy session. So we think several buildings based around the Agora would have been courts, major courts, but equally, if necessary, different spaces could be made into kind of temporary courts if they were needed. So one of the famous critiques of Athens, as people, it's kind of in Aristophanes, and people are flying over the city kind of in a dream world. They look down and the comment is, "Oh, that can't be Athens because I can't see law courts." So kind of one of the things that was supposed to identify Athens more than anything else were its law courts. So Linda, thank you very much for that absolutely fantastic question. We're coming very much to an end. We've only got about a minute and a half left. Kind of what have we got? Oh, yes, here, Kirsty Hadden. Oh my God, she just listened to the Spartan podcast. So this was the new podcast that I did with Greg Jenner, and it's a series called You're Dead to Me, where it's Greg comparing with a historian for a particular period and focus alongside a comedian. So I was there discussing the Spartans with Greg and Joel Dommett, and we had a great time talking about the Spartans and of course talking about 300. So if you haven't heard the podcast, you can have a listen if you Google or search on Apple Podcasts for You're Dead to Me, the Spartans. Have a listen into that. And Kirsty was talking about the sort of thought that I wanted to leave at the end of that podcast, which is the Spartans spent a lot of time living up to and promulgating their reputation as absolute kind of hard-ass soldiers, and making that reputation work for them in every possible way. One of the best ways in which you can sort of stop people attacking you and wanting to try to conquer you is to have a reputation to be absolutely ferocious soldiers. Works brilliantly. But equally in the centuries after the Spartan kind of heyday, when the Romans were in town, and the Romans obviously were militarily kind of in charge of everything, the Spartans realised that there was a money to be made from the tourism industry of getting Romans coming to Sparta to sort of soak up that idea of the absolute soldier. And so one of the things Spartans started doing in the Roman era of Greek history is inventing festivals and rituals that spoke to this kind of hardcore Spartan military training ethos, which actually had never really existed during the kind of heyday, the archaic and classical periods of Spartan history. And one of those was associated with the sanctuary of Artemis Orthia in Sparta, where in the Roman period the Spartans even went as far as building a semicircular kind of seating around the altar and temple of this sanctuary to pack them all in, the tourists in, as they came down to visit Sparta. And then some poor Spartan boys would be brought out and would be sort of ceremoniously whipped over the altar while all the Roman tourists were told that this is something that Sparta has done from time immemorial to make sure that all Spartan men are hardy kind of fighters and willing to die and be the most ferocious fighters of the entire ancient world. So we have a great example there, and it's absolutely true. Kirsty couldn't quite believe it's true, but it is absolutely true that the Spartans were making up stuff to play up to their reputation in order to survive and prosper, both financially and in terms of their ongoing reputation during the Roman era of the Greek world, and they did a very, very good job of it, because the Spartan mirage, the Spartan idea of the ultimate kind of hardcore Spartan warrior is still one that's with us today. So everyone, I think our time is up. Thank you so much indeed for your questions. It's been absolutely fantastic to spend this time with you. We will meet next time if you can. I hope you can tune in, whether you're in Melbourne, whether you're in Brazil, whether you're in the US, whether you're in Ireland, whether you're in Buckinghamshire, whether you're in Wales, wherever you might be. I hope that you can tune in to join us next time, which will be in 2 weeks' time on the 17th of October, 4 p.m. UK time. So that's 1 to 1:30 in Melbourne, Australia, and I very much hope that you have a fantastic rest to this week. Stay safe if you're in the UK. We have a hurricane coming towards us over the next couple of days. I hope to see some of you at the open day this Saturday, or if not, I'll see you on the 17th before then, hopefully seeing you at the open day on the 19th, or indeed at the Oxford event at the Ashmolean on the 20th of October. Everyone, have a great rest of the day, have a great weekend, look after yourselves, take care, bye bye.